Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're gonna talk about Galbrena again. I know I talked about her before, like I want to say like a week ago. I uploaded a video talking about my disappointment with Galbrena's kit and why she was a disappointing character as a whole. Just the other day, I got her S1, and it just really further emphasizes why I think she's a disappointing unit, and I want to talk about that further and hash over some things again that might have went over people's heads before, because this is something I really feel like is problematic inside the game. And Kuro just did a dev talk not so long ago, and inside their dev talk they went in detail talking about their design philosophy and their whole thought process when it comes to creating some of these units, from including things like their lore to character uniqueness to all of that stuff, right? So this kind of just like confirmed this whole massive rant I did on stream talking about my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory about Galbrena, in a sense, which I'll dabble with a little bit here. For those of you who know, right, I'm sorry you guys have to listen to this rant for like the 30th time, but we're gonna talk about it. Let's dive in. So the big issue I have with Galbrena is going to be her afterflame, right? So this number one is just going to be the glaring issue. So for those of you who don't know what afterflame is, it's essentially a massive part of her kit. It plays a role in buffing this unit's damage, right? It's a little forte bar down at the bottom here that can only be built up when an echo skill is cast. Now, thankfully, Galbrena isn't the only person who has to cast echo skills in order to actually get this included. Unfortunately, though, I wish she was. I genuinely wish she was the only one who can build that forte. I'm gonna have to mute Chimera for a second, so we're just gonna pause. Let's go back and look at the resonator thing. So why is this like a bad thing in my opinion? It's pretty bad because actually, you know what? Just a quick demo of it. Say you're using a character like, doesn't matter, any character. You're a free-to-play unit or free-to-play player. Who cares, right? As long as you pop your echo skill, your Q button, if you're on PC, and then you switch to another character and you pop your Q skill, again, as you can see, she builds Forte or Afterflame. Now, this isn't that bad. This isn't this big of a deal to some people. Some people look at this and are like, oh, that's not bad. But as you notice, that's all my characters' rotations. I just used 3 characters' echo skill cast to get her Forte, and it's not maxed out. What's the deal there? I'm like, well, that's not bad, Render. I mean, you can look at characters like Zani, because everyone loves comparing Zani, right? But the thing with Zani is that Phoebe, you can build her bar up to the max. With Rover, you can build her bar up to the max. Zani, she can keep popping her E skill, which is really slow and not efficient, but she can build her own Forte. It's just slow. So she can get her max spectral frazzle stacks or her max Forte and do a massive amount of damage. You can't do the same thing with Galbrena, so they are slightly different in a sense. Also, again, with the whole Zani thing, just to like really throw that out the window for people who keep using Zani as an example, she had a free-to-play option, Spectral Rover. It's not a perfect option, but it was an option nonetheless that was available to players day one. Galbrena doesn't really have any free-to-play options at all. Like, realistically, when it comes to team comps and team building, this is what makes her restrictive. So in order to build a portion of her damage, the Afterflame mechanic, right, you would have to use a character like Frolova and Cantarella together, which are 2 limited time units, right? So technically in total, you have a full premium team. You have 3 limited time units all on one team in order to build up one part of her kit, which is the Afterflame, to get that max stacks. Afterflame, again, is important because it's the damage buff that she needs inside her kit in order to do more damage. Because without Afterflame, her numbers they're kind of bad. They really do suck.
That's your call.
It's like her whole kit is built around, all of her damage is built around the idea of her having Afterflame, as well as her doing echo skill damage. And echo skill damage, you can't amplify at all inside the game unless you eat some food. And then we have to wait for characters like Chi-Yuan. So I'm going to talk about that again later on. Why is this a bad thing? But if you already see where I'm going with this, you know, right? So the issue stemming from that is... shit, I'm trying to lose my train of thought. I'm sorry, I just woke up. I woke up and I chose violence. The issue with this whole thing is essentially... you need 3 limited time units or 2 limited time units in order to make one character do like a main DPS job. I need a DPS to basically support another DPS to make this DPS do DPS. That's like the equivalent of me needing a support character and saying, yo, this support character can't have access to their kit, right? Like you can't do your support abilities unless you have another support on a team. Like imagine if Shorekeeper was so restrictive, right? And then she's like, oh, well, you can't provide her 40% attack buff at S2. You can't provide her her crit rate, crit damage one, because not only do you need the energy regen requirements, but you also need to have Rover on your team, or else Shorekeeper just absolutely denies having that. So you kind of like restrict her teams intentionally, right? Because now people are forced to like build Rover at that point to have Rover on the team, just so you can make this unit do what the unit is supposed to do. That would piss a lot of people off, right? That's how I feel with Galbrena. It's kind of like I need to pull Chi Yuan in order to get this character to actually have access to their kit. And this is frustrating to me because all of the complaints revolve around characters like Zani, the small concerns we had around characters like Cardathea, right? Cardathea wasn't as bad because she can switch between baby mode and big mode, which is kind of cool. Let's like we got characters like Augusta and Yuno who just dropped. I'm gonna mute my my video in the background here because this is actually kind of really distracting. Hold on. As much as I love listening to my characters, I kind of just want to keep my my brain focused. All right, sorry about that. So characters like Augusta and Yuno are absolutely phenomenal because Augusta, at least she has access to her full kit. So with Augusta, if you go to her talents, we look at her inherent skill and everything like that. When she deals damage, she gains a shield, right? This is like a huge portion of her kit. This plays a pivotal role, right? This is what increases her damage because this goes in with her Echo set. Her Echo set being Crown of Valor, she gains her attack percent, she gains her crit damage. This is already a stronger Echo set buff than what we get with Galbrena, which is like another complaint of mine, is how her Echo set feels like a last minute. So let's talk about it. So going back to that dev talk I mentioned earlier and how like Kuro essentially just came out and openly admitted that they take characters' lore and everything like that into consideration in the whole thought design, and they really think about these characters in depth. And you can also see that here if you go into the talents and you look at their the Galbrena's Forte circuit, you see things like Hellstrike damage. This is like a little Easter egg slash nudge to like the Devil May Cry reference and her whole idea behind the centered around hell and demons and all that stuff like that, right? It's not a lot of damage, but it's like a little like Easter egg slash nudge, right? So this will always be 666. This will never not be 666 if you didn't know. There's no critting on this. It's just 666 always, right? So that showcases to you the attention to detail that's there inside this character's kit. Now, if you think about Galbrena's kit, what is Galbrena considered inside the story? Not only is she considered a solo unit, a character who doesn't like to work in teams, she works by herself, right? She summons tacit discord, she works with echoes, all that stuff like that. She controls them essentially. And then you see her even in her idle animations. So if I go up here, let's see, can I look at her idle animations from here, or do I have to go? Here we go. If you look at her idle animations, she summons Chimera, right? She summons Chimera, she summons like the bird, all that stuff like that. The wings come out. The wings is considered an echo. So you have this character who is essentially an echo skilled damage dealer who works with echoes, but isn't considered an echo skill caster.
Back off.
That makes no sense to me. But then you get the blind swordsman, Chi Yuan, who does nothing with echoes whatsoever, but he's going to be the echo skill caster slash buffer. So right off rip, that just tells me, hey, you intentionally butchered this character's kit to sell Chi Yuan to make him look like a viable pick. Because let's be real here, she was automatically gonna sell. Waifu sell instantly. There's like, you can make this character actually terrible, which I think she is. And people are just gonna suck it up and buy it. And based off my comment section from my YouTube video before talking about her, I think this is actually the case. And then Chisa's right around the corner, so Chisa's automatically like sought after. There wasn't that much hype around Chi Yuan. There are people who want Chi Yuan, but he's not as hyped up as Chisa and Galbrena is. So they're taking this risk, it seems, to sit there and butcher this unit on purpose to make Chi Yuan look valuable. So people who have this unit, right, who's like, oh, well, in order for me to actually give her a best in slot and buffer and make her actually tap into her true damage potential, right, you need to get another premium unit. That's my issue. And I don't like that, right? Uh, Another glaring issue I have with Yuan, I'm sorry I'm all over the place with this, but these are just like my big concerns with these characters, is lately how they're going about handling support units. We have characters like who, let me show you really quickly. If we go here to the screen and you look at what Yuno's role is, nowhere here does it state she's a main damage dealer. It just states that she's support and healer, right? But this character does so much damage at S0 that she can be a main damage dealer. She can hyper carry teams. She can solo content. She has access to all of her buffs. She can do all that by herself. Her rotation is also crazy fast too. So even if you didn't want to build this unit, she's probably one of the most flexible units in the sense of she can play any role you want her to play. She can play your main damage dealer role. She can play your sub DPS role. She can play your healer role. She could just play just a regular buffing heavy attack damage amplification role, right? She will serve whatever purpose you need her to serve. Well, out of the generic roles, other than like obviously like applying negative status effects and stuff, perfectly fine. She excels within her own niche, whereas Galbrena doesn't. All it states here, she's a main damage dealer, but this main damage dealing, she can't access her own power. And I'm going to go further and explain why this still is problematic with the Afterflame. So keep the Afterflame in mind, please, because I'm not even to the part that like really made me lose my shit further, right? So another character to take into consideration about the support and healer is Brant. Why am I bringing up support and healers? So we know Brant, he does massive amount of damage. Same thing as he can main DPS and everything like that. He has access to his whole kit. So we look at Chi-Yuan, and Chi-Yuan, we already seen the leaks for him. We already know, or not the leaks, we've seen the in-game screenshot fully now. If you were doing a main story and you play with Chi-Yuan, you know he's on a Law of Harmony set. You saw his talents, you saw his liberation, we saw his damage scaling, we saw what he can do with just a regular basic attack string and how he scales melee and heavy attack damage, right? So you look at Chi-Yuan and you're like, this guy's actually kind of crazy. He's gonna be essentially basically another Yuno. So if you look at the team comp in mind, let me show you what the team comp is gonna look like. The team comp is gonna look something like this. It's gonna look something like this, right? Because Chi-Yuan scales and heavy attack damage. We're gonna say Ji-Yan is my Chi-Yuan, right? So it's gonna be Yuno on a team, buffing Chi-Yuan. So Yuno's gonna start off with the rotation. Mind you, I just told you she does massive amounts of damage by herself. She's basically a main damage dealer. So if you're slightly built, she's gonna hog up majority of this damage rotation. So she's gonna come in, she's gonna do a rotation, do her big damage numbers, her quick rotation, heavy attack damage amp, move over to Chi-Yuan, who's gonna get a 50% heavy attack damage amplification, right? And then on top of him getting a 50% heavy attack damage amplification, he's also going to buff his own heavy attack damage by another 30% off rip off the Law of Harmony set, because all of his skills are considered Echo skill casts. So he gets a free 30% just for doing a regular basic attack string or just building Forte, right? So now that's basically 80% heavy attack damage amplification on him, not including his Echo substats, right? And because he also scales in Echo skill damage, while also being an Echo skill caster, the Law of Harmony set, I think it's like another 20% Echo skill damage increase on there. And still not including his 4 cost, which I think his 4 cost is like another 12%. So he's getting all this damage amps by himself and from her, that he's going to do so much damage that by the time you get to Galbrena and give her damage amp, it's like, yeah, the team looked powerful, but it wasn't from your main damage dealer. Majority of that damage got offloaded by your supports. Limited supports at that. This is problematic to me because my main damage dealer shouldn't need them in order to do the main damage. You are the main damage dealer. These characters should be like buffs, right? And this is why I love the dynamic between Yuno and Augusta. Actually, do I have my Yuno Augusta team? I do. So Yuno and Augusta is great because Augusta doesn't need Yuno and Yuno doesn't need Augusta. However, if you're like me and you have both units, right? The team is an absolute monster, but Augusta by herself does so much damage that she is a premium main damage dealer and she has access to her entire kit, which also makes her flexible and opens up her team comps because it's easy to satisfy her needs, right? You can slap her on with someone like Mortefi. You can slap her on with someone like Yinlin. You can slap her on with someone like Frolova. You can slap her on with characters like Yuno. You have options for Augusta that you don't have for characters like Galbrena. Galbrena's teams is literally just characters like the Mono Fusion team, and then the Mono Fusion team has its own issues because you're literally only just providing the fusion damage bonus and fusion resistance shred, but you're not providing her the echo skill damage amplification that she really needs. That majority of her kit is going to be based off of, right? Like her ult is echo skill damage, and I think her basic attack string 3 and 4 or 4 and 5 or something like that are echo skill damage, which is like the big damage numbers. Her heavy attack damage numbers are actually the low end of the numbers. So really boosting her heavy attack isn't too crazy. Let's be real. And I have all heavy attack substats. So you use a character like Lupa and you're forced to just run Lupa Brant, right? Assuming that you don't have S3 like me. If you have S0, you're only forced to use Lupa and Brant and then Galbrena, and you're still missing the massive portion of that kit. And then Brant is just doing majority of the damage off just his 1 E skill and his quick rotation. And his basic attack is just absolutely shredding. So Brant is pretty much out DPSing your Galbrena again as a support and healer. All right. Frolova Cantarella team. Frolova is a main damage dealer. So you're sacrificing one team, aka your Mono Havoc team, to try to get this character up and running to function. And this character is doing majority of the damage again because her normal rotation is really strong. And then after normal rotation, her off-field damage that she's doing with the coordinated attack Ofakate is doing like 50, 70k a hit, maybe 100k depending on how crazy cracked your stats are and your scalings, right? So you have that character still doing more damage overall in the rotation than Galbrena. On top of that, you're still not getting the full after flame effect yet because, like I said, you need to get Cantarella. So you might not think this is too bad because you're like, okay, Roshia kind of sucks, so it's not too bad replacing Roshia with Galbrena, right? So you're going like basically like 3 DPS because Cantarella, you can kind of say she kind of does damage. Cantarella does good damage, at least for me. My Cantarella is kind of stacked, and she's S0, right? She does a lot of damage. And her cons aren't even maxed out, and she's doing some big damage. I do like 100k with like her skill, stuff like that, which is pretty impressive. So you take this unit, and you replace your Roshia with Galbrena. Some people might not see that as a problem because some people probably didn't want to pull Roshia because of all the controversy around her and how she's only good technically for Whimpering Waste. Granted, but hey, if that's your team comp, that's like realistically the only team comp you're gonna run. And then going back to Yuno and Chi-Yuan, if you get the Yuno and Chi-Yuan team, yes, you'll be able to satisfy her echo skill damage amplification, and you'll be given her crit damage bonus. But then you're also going to have to compete with the idea of using Yuno and Chi-Yuan, and you have to hope and pray that you have both of those. If you don't have both of those, I guess that's fine. Well, I wouldn't say you need to have both, but in a sense, to make that team full premium, then yeah, you're going to want, obviously, to buff your Chi-Yuan if you're getting Chi-Yuan because he's going to do main damage. So you kind of want to help his damage out, right? And then you also want to sustain, which is going to be obviously she's going to be your sustainer because she's your healer. And then you're going to want obviously Chi-Yuan to buff Galbrena so she can do like the actual air quote main damage dealing portion of her kit. But then you're ignoring like the fusion buff of her kit. There's no one satisfying that. But hey, you don't necessarily need it, I guess. If you're fine with ignoring the fusion damage and you're fine with ignoring the heavy attack, it's not that big of a deal. Because you'll have at least the big portion of her kit, the echo skill damage amplification going off, as well as some crit damage. All right. Going back to Afterflame, though, we sat there ranting long enough. I'm hope you can see where my complaints are stemming from with this. I don't like the idea of constantly needing a premium for a premium, and I don't like the idea of characters not having access to their kits. Augusta's great because she has access to her kit. Yuno's great because she has access to her kit. Yuno's also way more flexible, has more team comps, and everyone thought she was going to be extremely niche, right? Frolova, echo skill damage dealer. However, she also scales in resonant skill, does massive damage, can still access her entire kit. Right, she just also has echo skill damage amplification that can be boosted further, which is awesome, and her weapon is super busted. Her echo set also super powerful. characters like Zani. Even though Zani can't really build her forte as fast, at least she can constantly continuously build her own forte as a solo unit. It's just really slow. Not really optimal, but hey, she can still max out her forte, and you can see what Zani's full power is like. You can slap Zani on, and as we get further into the years of Wuwa, at least you can argue things like there might be more spectral frazzle appliers later on that will help Zani out, right? But ignoring that, she does have access to characters like Kachona, who does deal spectral frazzle for her, so she has that flexibility. She has the Uno team comp as well, which will also help her again get the heavy attack damage amplification. And she does so much damage that her scaling is actually really good scaling, because it's not a split scaling, it's just all front loaded into heavy attack. So that's really great on her end. And she also has access to characters like Spectral Rover, so free to plays don't have to pull another premium unit, and they don't have to even try to like pull on a banner they don't care for a future 4-star. If they ever come out with a 4-star, that would apply that. You have a unit right off rip that is actually pretty strong and capable of providing substantial buffs to Zani off rip. So that is optional. Whereas right now Galbrena doesn't. Her kit's just entirely locked away. You just realistically can't build her kit.
That's your call.
Okay. So I want to talk about Galbrena's cons real quick, going back to the whole Afterflame argument, and really showcase to you why this is problematic. So going to Galbrena's con here, we have her S1. At S1, when casting Resonant Skill, a Sense of Malice, each point of Afterflame, remember how I told you build Afterflame, additionally grants 2% crit damage to basic attack, Seraphic Execution, heavy attack, Flame Wing Verdict, mid-air attack, Hellsent Barrage, pretty much all of her skills. We don't need to read all of this, right? Up to 80%. This effect is removed upon exiting Demo Hypostasis. And then, you know, while you're in Demo Hypostasis, you get the good old quality of life that they intentionally throw into the kit, where you're just immune to interruption. Okay. You don't have to worry about getting like the resistance buildup. Now you can just say I'm completely immune, right? So there's that. Issue is, how do you build Afterflame again? You build Afterflame with everyone else. So if you're free to play and you don't have the premium units, or you don't have characters like Chiyuan, you'll never be able to capitalize on this full buff of her Afterflame. So you're missing on a massive portion of her damage. Again, this is like her whole issues, like a massive portion of her damage, and even her S1 is still technically locked away from you because you can't get the 2%. Or sorry, you can't get the 80%. You're gonna get like 2% guaranteed. You're gonna have what? I think you get like 40 points. You'll be at like 40% crit damage or whatever, if you want to look at that increase, which isn't anything substantial. That's like literally like what, 2 or 3 echo stats, whereas like this is like 80% is huge. That's like all your echoes getting crit damage rolled, right? That would have been a really good S1. Nothing too crazy, but still really good. And then S2 isn't that bad, but S2 is pretty good. I mean, 350% more attack bonus, and Burning Drive you get from just doing like pretty much anything inside her kit, whether it be her intro skill, her dodge counter, or just dodging in general into like an attack string. You build Burning Drive and it lasts 4 seconds. So this is actually really good. At base it's 20%, so you getting 350% across her basic attacks is pretty nice. But it's not like the craziest thing ever. This would be super busted and strong. Don't get me wrong, had she had access to her kit. In the description, I'm going to link an X-Slice video, so you guys can watch that, so you can see the difference in performance between her S0 to her S6, and just look at how useless her cons truly are up to a certain point. Like, they're really bad. I think she has like the worst sequence node scaling, in my opinion, out of every unit I've seen so far. Like, that's a limited 5-star specifically when it comes to how their sequence nodes scale them and how powerful they truly get. Like, you know, off rip is getting 40% attack, right? That's pretty cool. And then the 40% extra damage amplification on top of her already 40% damage amplification with Blessing the Way and Light. So she basically gets like what, 80% damage amplification, which is kind of insane because her damage numbers are ridiculous. And then you have characters like Augusta, who S1, you know, you're getting crit damage, you know, you're getting crit damage here, You're getting massive crit damage on this one too, with some crit rate, giving her a big boost to her overall kit, right? Her kit gets insane. The crit damage doesn't sound crazy until you really do the math on it, and then you think about how it's just her entire kit that's buffed, not just like one aspect of the kit. The entire kit is just buffed. So she's doing overall significantly more damage, making her one of the craziest units out there. Then you get the 25% attack increase, which with how high her damage numbers are, this makes sense. And this is why I look at characters like Galbrena, and even when some of her scalings don't probably look like the craziest, like her liberation 130%, that doesn't seem too out there, right? When you look at the numbers on her actual ult. But this would have been absolutely ridiculous if she had access to all of her damage potential. So I'm yapping. Let's end this video off pretty soon. So I want to talk about my solutions and how I'd address this character, how I'd fix this unit. What I would do for Galbrena is essentially I would go on her skills, right?
Who gets the
I would
bullet?
remove
That's your call.
her echo set. This one right here that she has, the flame wing shadow, whatever it's called, like the crit rate. I would just make this either a sequence node, make it either her S1, or I would put it in her inherent skill. I just make it inherent, and I would just remove this extra statement. Just say it's 20% crit rate whenever she's doing whatever her basic attack animation strings are. I mean, they don't really mind adding Bibles to the game anyways. You can just put the Bible text in there if they really want to. You'll gain the 60% fusion damage bonus. Not that big of a deal, right? It's only 16% fusion damage bonus. So add that to her inherent skill. Like add it to like let's see, maybe up here. Add it up here as part of her inherent skill. Send Feaster, whatever you want to call it, right? And that would be really good. 16% fusion damage bonus as well as all that included in here, and 20% crit rate, and you can still keep this. That would be kind of nice. I would change her to an Echo skill caster entirely. And the reason why I would change her to an Echo skill caster is because, one, lore-wise, it makes the most sense. You hyped her up as like this Task Discord Slayer. She's a solo unit. She doesn't like to really work in teams too much. And she controls echoes. You literally watch her summon them in the middle of the fight. By making her an Echo skill caster, she would have access to her own after flames. I'm sorry if you guys can hear my phone in the background. I always get notifications when I'm recording. I hate it. I'm gonna turn my phone off. Anyways, she would get access to her own after flame, allowing this unit to then get her full damage dealt amplification here. Then we can also take her off of this bummy ass Echo set, and we can throw on a Law of Harmony set, which looks like that was intentionally made for her initially. So if we look at the Law of Harmony set, let's go here really quickly. Law of Harmony. And you just read that real quick. Casting Echo skill grants 30% heavy attack damage bonus to the caster for 4 seconds. So she was still considered an Echo skill caster. Her regular basic attack string will automatically give her the heavy attack damage bonus, which, you guessed it, is pretty much all of her regular attacks. Like her 1, 2, 3 are considered heavy attack damage, and then her 4 and 5 are considered Echo skill damage. So with that being the case, if these are considered heavy attack damage bonuses, that means just by me simply just doing regular attacks, the scaling on that's already technically better. So she's already going to be doing more damage there while building her forte, increasing her damage throughout the fight, similar to Augusta and Yuno on the Crown of Valor set, which would be great. So it's not like it's uncommon or unheard of, right? For a character to progressively get stronger. Also, Forlova does the same thing. She progressively gets stronger too as the fight goes on. So basic attack strings pretty much increasing my heavy attack damage, and then that would also increase my Echo skill damage, which is her 4 and 5, right? So by the time you got to her 4th and 5th basic attack string, right, after doing like her E skill, her ultimate, whatever the case may be, whatever, right, you would have the Echo skill damage buff that would last for 30 seconds, which is huge. That's pretty much her entire rotation being satisfied. You would get like, what, 16% Echo skill damage, which isn't bad. That's actually really good, right? Inside her kit. So you got your 30% heavy attack damage bonus across your rotation, another 16% Echo skill damage amplification there, and then you'll obviously have her her other slot like her Chorosaurus also buffing her echo skill damage bonus and her fusion damage bonus there too. So she's getting all of these extra scalings into her kit, as well as her being able to buff herself with her after flame. And then you can use premiums like Chi Yuan or your Lupas or whatever team comp you want to do, essentially, and it'll make her a way more flexible unit and not limit her teams. You'll open up her teams actually in that case, because now she can serve like, you know, that main damage dealer slight buffer, and it'll make sense to throw her into like the Cantarella Frolova team a little bit too, because of her being able to like casting echo skills. She essentially just buffed them in a sense and gave her more value on that team other than Roshia, right? Because now you're buffing their echo skill damage. And then you can have her on the Lupa team, the Mono Fusion team, because now she can buff herself and still get Lupa's buffs and have access to her full DPS potential and her sequence nodes if you have sequences. Yeah, I think that would be how I would change Galbrena. I would literally just change that aspect of her kit. I think that's everything I really wanted to talk about with Galbrena. Hopefully, I made more sense here in this video. I didn't really showcase too much gameplay or anything like that. There wasn't any gameplay at all, mind you. I just got on and really wanted to talk about that and showcase some of these things. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I'm off work, so I can actually go back and I'm going to catch up on some of the comments in the other video. Currently working on my dev reaction video that I did on live, and we'll actually have that one edited and shot out on YouTube soon. Yeah, definitely. I just want the community to be vocal. So in conclusion, I want you guys just to be vocal, stay consistent, let Kurogames know that, hey, this isn't okay, because they are constantly experimenting with these ideas and they're trying to find ways to sneak in this stuff. And it feels really predatory to constantly keep making units that feel busted on purpose. Like they create you a problem to sell you a solution. Like you just openly admit it that you pay attention to all these kits and designs, which, you know, it seems to be the case. And you know about characters like Zani is a huge issue. You know, Cardathea sparked some controversy. We have these units here, and then you just get Galbrena and you're like, yeah, no, we're gonna now just make her look crazy appealing in terms of like her design, and then lock it away. And for those of you who are like mega simps for this unit, right, I respect it and everything like that, but please just think of it like this. Even if you think she's powerful and you think she's great where she is, whatever the case may be, if you could just like overlook your biasness, just let everyone else who sees these issues as an issue, right? Let Kurogames buff it and make better units and do better next time, right? Because if your unit gets buffed, you got a buff. And you already thought she was strong. So it's a WW. It's a win-win for you, right? If you think she's really strong right now, it's a win-win. But this isn't me trying to like fearmonger and tell people don't pull for Galbrena. It's just let's be realistic here and let people actually pull another unit that is technically going to be better if they really want to. People should be aware of these issues, right? I have every single unit in the game, so this isn't about me. I have I have cons as well. I have every single unit, their best in slots, and I have signatures. So as you can see here, I am a massive supporter of Wuthering Waves, okay? I'm not going to pretend like I'm like the biggest whale in the world, but I am someone who actually likes Kuro. I really do like Kurogames, and I like to just support them where I can. I'm a huge shill, and I just want to let people know, like, hey, there's problems inside this game, and I will like to correct them. I don't want us to go down a route of Genshin Impact. It's okay to be critical, okay? I don't want to be in a Hoyoverse where we just keep spreading like this toxic positivity the whole time, and we're debating people and we're ignoring red flags. Galbrena to me is a red flag, and not the good kind of red flag. She's a bad red flag. She needs to be adjusted, in my opinion. So Kuro, if you see this video, please adjust this unit, buffer, please. Just make her an echo skill caster and throw her on the Law of Harmony set at this point, and then just take her Flame Wing Shadows echo set and throw it into her inherent skills, or just buff that set entirely, or we could just say screw it and just come up with another echo set for her, because at this point this is kind of ridiculous. But definitely make her an echo skill caster. She should be able to tap into her own power herself. She knows how to control her power. She's been working by herself for all these years. that's it. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for watching. Again, let me know what you think down below. If you're new to the video, please drop a like and subscribe to my channel. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one.